The Lady from Shanghai is an Orson Welles film from 1947 with a typically Orson Welles turbulent production story. Is it one of his best? Well, we're going to talk about it this week on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. My name is Harry Bailey. I am joined by my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Dark nights coming in very early now over here in Ireland, obviously.
Yeah, I've got the big light on.
Yeah, same with myself. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock and it's already kind of starting to get quite overcast. So that's a bit depressing. But we've got a classic. Is it any good or not? We'll see, boys. We've got a classic to obviously delve into.
Yeah.
Today.
Second Orson Welles film on the podcast, and yeah, Orson Welles. I'm just gonna ask you a question straight up before we get into our spoiler-free review and the Times Machine and whatnot. Shane, based on filmography alone, in this kind of pocket of cinema that we're covering, mostly the 30s to the 60s, do you think, based on filmography alone, that Orson Welles would be in the top 10 directors of that period?
See, that's a good question because of the movies I've seen of his, I would say yeah, but I know that he does also have quite a few movies, as you just said, that have been, let's say, hacked to bits by the studios. Definitely did not go his way from a creative control point of view, and they ended up deviating quite heavily from his original kind of artistic notions. So if we're talking around the world, I think it's an interesting question. If we're talking just from American directors, I'd say absolutely, yeah, definitely top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're expanding that to like the world at large, of European cinema, of world cinema from the 30s to the 60s, I think it's a more interesting question, and potentially he could make the cut or he might not. You know, it's I think you could definitely make an argument either way.
Yeah, 100%. This is a film that is like littered with trivia. There's so many things that happened in the making of this movie. Probably the most famous thing about this movie, realistically, is that the entire reason that it exists is because Orson Welles was stuck for cash, and was in the middle of making Around the World in 80 Days, a stage play in Boston, and one night all the costumes were impounded, and he had incurred a $55,000 debt that if it wasn't paid, they would shut the whole show down. So Orson Welles allegedly grabbed a book, which is the book that this was based on, read the synopsis of it over the phone to Harry Cohn, who's the head of Columbia, and said, buy the rights to this book and I will direct and star and edit and produce the whole thing for you. And then we got The Lady from Shanghai. Apparently he, again, this is all allegedly, but allegedly he hadn't even read the book yet. He was going to, but he hadn't even read it yet. He just read the synopsis. Harry Cohn went and bought the rights to the book. And yeah, Orson Welles movie, the production was a nightmare. Like someone even died on the production. But even more insane than that is they were using Errol Flynn's yacht for the yacht scenes, and he skippered it. And because Errol Flynn was Errol Flynn, someone who somehow we've never covered on the podcast, but I know in the new year we'll definitely cover him. Errol Flynn was let's just say out of his bin whilst he was skippering this boat, and when the guy died on the boat, Errol Flynn just tried to hide him in a duffel bag. Even though the guy had a heart attack, Errol Flynn just thought it was his fault and tried to hide the body. So Orson Welles had to like frantically try and call the Coast Guard to get out there before Errol Flynn could bury this body at sea. Yeah, pretty wild production. Also, as I'm sure Shane will talk about because he's referenced it before, the relationship between Rita Hayworth and Orson Welles not doing too well. They ended up divorced by the end of this movie, and it's a shame because I think Rita Hayworth, according to an interview I saw with Peter Bogdanovich, said that Rita Hayworth was the one who pushed to be in this movie because she thought that her being on set with Orson Welles would kind of
Bring them back
fix their
together,
marriage.
yeah.
It went the other way around.
Yeah.
She also cut her trademark long ginger hair and had a short bleach blonde, platinum blonde hair, which many say is the reason that this financially flopped. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, except for The Stranger, which I'll admit is probably my least favorite Orson Welles film I've seen. Every Orson Welles film did poorly at the box office,
Yeah.
probably because they weren't pushed hard enough by their studios. But hey, at least The Stranger somehow made money.
Yeah. Speaking of which, obviously we've covered Citizen Kane, so besides Citizen Kane, which we both just basically waxed lyrical about for like an hour on that podcast episode, what is your favourite Orson Welles film outside of obviously Citizen Kane? Or maybe you prefer something ahead of Citizen Kane even.
No, Citizen Kane's definitely my favorite.
Yeah,
I think my ranking of Wells goes Citizen Kane, A Touch of Evil. Sorry, Touch of Evil, I should say, not A Touch of Evil. Touch of Evil. This, The Trial, Othello, The Stranger. That is all the Orson Welles films I've seen, I think, unless I'm forgetting an obvious one. I think they're all the Orson Welles films I've seen. That I think that's probably my ranking as it stands. What about you? What's your favorite non-Kane film?
Yeah, my favourite would be. See, it's interesting. I think my favourite would probably be Touch of Evil as well. Yeah, but I think I would have The Trial above. Well, we'll get to it, I'm sure. I think I'll have
this.
to. Yeah, above this. Yeah, exactly. Which I still we'll get into it. I did enjoy this, but yeah, I will put The Trial above.
Yeah, The Trial's fantastic. It's
really
very Kafka-esque, would you believe? It is adapted from a Kafka book. Anyway, it is time for the spoiler-free review. So Shane, in a spoiler-free review, could you please let us know what you thought about Lady from Shanghai from Orson Welles?
Yeah, it's interesting. I probably saw this for the first time last year, during last year's Noirvember, and really enjoyed it. It's very campy, like you said. It's quite affected, like it's quite over the top in certain moments. And Orson Welles has the most ridiculous Irish accent.
Yeah, I'm glad we're addressing the elephant in the room straight away.
It's, to be honest, it didn't even bother me that much on the first.
Dreadful.
I thought it was actually quite funny, and eventually I just got used to it. Who cares? It's not good at all, but like you get used to it. Weirdly enough, you'd think it would be like I would be even more used to it on the second watch. But it actually
same thing happened to me.
Yeah, it irritated me way more on a second watch. I don't know why that was, but it just did, and that did affect my overall enjoyment of the movie. Plus, I also do have to say I did kind of notice. I think the pacing is quite uneven at times, and I think you can probably notice the more interference on a second watch than a first watch, where you're obviously seeing the movie for the first time, and you're just kind of trying to take in the story. I think on the second watch I did kind of notice how uneven it was at times, and there's moments of absolutely sublime. We'll get obviously, I'm sure, to the ending, but there's also little moments sprinkled throughout that are just so well done and brilliantly shot, and then there's also moments that are just way too camp and over the top. So I definitely would recommend it. It's definitely a good movie, a good noir, a good Orson Welles film. But yeah, I think on the second watch I did notice certain things more, and that did kind of make me bump up against it a little more on the second watch.
Yeah, I really like this film. I loved it on a first watch, particularly the ending, which I won't talk about. I'll just say it's at a fun house. Unbelievable ending, fantastic. Again, first time I watched it, I thought, Orson Welles' Irish accent is so silly. Second time round, I was like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, just stop speaking. Because, his performance is good, don't get me wrong. But I don't know why, on a second watch, the acting, the accent, I should say, was just it was just like nails on a chalkboard. Because he got a lot of narration, this character. Just dreadful. Performance is good, accent is awful. Rita Hayworth is very good in this. She is pretty against cast in this, I feel. I won't go into spoilers with her character, but let's just say she's a character with a few edges. something you kind of need for a film noir, absolutely. As well in this film, we've two or three actors who you'd probably seen before, but maybe wouldn't know their names. Everett Sloane was apparently an absolute bastard on set, and no one would speak to him because he just moaned the whole time. He is someone who, again, this is according to Peter Bogdanovich. It's a good interview, actually. It's like 20 minutes long. I'd recommend it. He just talks about the lady from Shanghai. Supposedly, Orson Welles thought that Everett Sloane was a fantastic radio actor, but not a great on-screen actor. And he had no, like, physical presence, which is why he gave him two canes to make him have a certain kind of physical presence about him. Because, they actually custom-made leg braces for Everett Sloane, but he refused to wear them. So just one
Isn't
thing
he
that
in Citizen Kane? I could have sworn he was.
he is, a long-time collaborator. I think he's part of that whole Mercury gang. I think he
Yeah.
was in a few of Wells's stage plays and stuff as well.
Yeah.
As well as Everett Sloane, Glenn Anders is in this film. Who I'm just gonna put it out there. I love his performance.
Oh, yeah,
It's so it's like an actual crazy person performance. But like what I like about it is it actually comes across quite unhinged, because it's not how you like there's a way of playing crazy, and this is like its own thing. He's so a bit of target practice is just like stuck in my head the way he says it. It's like
practice.
he's got like a pirate accent. It's amazing. Absolute shout out to Glenn Anders. Because his performance in this is one of my favorite things in the whole thing. It's so memorable because it is quite camp, it's quite over the top, but I think it works. It's by far one of the most memorable things. And then also, Ted DeCorsia plays a guy in this called Sidney Broom, and I had seen him in Jules Dassin's The Naked City, that I thought he was really, really good in. So again, I've seen this before, but I didn't know him. I didn't recognize him, obviously, then. I had seen him in a couple of things, but he never stuck out to me. He stuck out to me in Naked City. So then when I saw him again in this, I was like, oh, that guy. Because, he's very good in The Naked City. And he's in this too, and he's quite good in this. But he's somewhat of a bit part player, shall we say. But, very Orson Welles as well. That there's even just this random mate of his in the pub who has this whole what's your edge monologue. Very Orson Welles, that like the heavies and the sort of the henchmen and the I'm not going to get into it, but what Broom is to the narrative, they all kind of get their moments where they're like very vital to the plot. Just interesting. But overall, I really do like this film. My biggest gripe is Orson Welles' Irish accent. It is. And you know what? I'm sure if you're not Irish, you probably maybe pick up that it's bad, but like it won't hamper your viewing. It's just, as an Irish person, it is excruciating. Second time round, but I totally agree with you. First time round, I didn't mind it that much.
It's so weird.
It just felt like such a chore to listen to him speak.
You'd think you'd be more used to it on a second watch, and it would just go over your head a little bit more. It definitely was just
total opposite.
More, it was more annoying and more like unacceptable in a way. It was so weird.
And now it's time for the Times Machine. Shane, it is your favourite segment of the podcast, the Times Machine. Our good friend Bosley Crowther's back at it again. My question for you, Shane, did Bosley Crowther like The Lady from Shanghai?
Just based on the fact that Welles had a reputation, obviously in Hollywood, for like being a very particular kind of guy, and I know that some of his movies already hadn't been necessarily well received after Citizen Kane, obviously. I'm going to say that, and also because of the fact that Bosley Crowther seems to be a bit of a curmudgeon in certain ways, I'm going to say that he did not like this movie. I'm going to say that.
Okay, as always, I'm just going to basically paraphrase the review. This is quite a long review, so, make of that what you will. For a fellow who has as much talent with a camera as Orson Welles, and whose powers of pictorial invention are as fluid and as forcible as his, this gentleman certainly has a strange way of marring his films with sloppiness, which he seems to assume that his dazzling exhibitions of skill will camouflage. Let me just skip ahead because he.
Honestly, that's kind of fair. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with him at that point.
I'm going to go on for a bit. Sorry, I'm going to skip a bit because it is just like this is a wall of text, and go to the very end. This is about Mr. Welles, the director. He certainly could have done much better use for himself in the key role of the guileless merchant sailor who is taken by a woman's winning charm. For no matter how much you dress him in rakish yachting caps, open shirts, Mr. Welles simply hasn't the capacity to cut a romantic swath. And he adorns his characterization with a poetic air and an Irish brogue, which is painfully artificial. He makes himself and the film ridiculous. Indeed, his performance in the picture and his exhibitionistic cover-ups of the story's general untidiness give an ironic point to his first line: "When I start to make a fool of myself, there's very little that can stop me." Once again, Bosley Crowther did not like the film that we are covering on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Again, caveat, thank you to the New York Times for making all of these articles publicly available. Well, available to those of a subscription. Because, my God, am I getting enjoyment out of seeing their one film guy just dunk on every movie every week. Like, it is hilarious. I think in the 7 films now, he's like 2 out of 7,
Yeah,
and like
if
we
that.
are covering pretty acclaimed films this month. So, will you like Friday's film? Stick around for the next edition of the Times Machine. And now it's time for the main event. Spoilerific review from myself and Shane of The Lady from Shanghai. Shane, what are your first kind of takeaways from the film? Your first points that you have on your list of points there about the Lady from Shanghai.
Yeah, I'd say that they do a good job of kind of explaining or kind of showing how he just kind of falls into this situation in a way. Michael Hart, yeah. Obviously, like he's just kind of out and about one night, and then he bumps into Rita Hayworth's character,
Elsa Bannister.
Elsa Bannister. Thank you. Don't know
I think Elsa Bannister is a good name for a
that's
character.
a good name. Yeah,
I like that name.
Yeah, Bannister's a good name.
Do you know any Michael O'Hara's?
No, I know O'Hara's alright, but I don't know any Michael O'Hara's.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I don't either, which is just surprising.
Yeah, it's a fairly. You think it was a fairly common name. But yeah, obviously, like he kind of falls into the situation where they have to kind of meet cute and stuff, and then they're kind of doing this like horse carriage ride, and then yeah, essentially the next day, then George Bannister, her husband, kind of comes to the pub and tries to get him a job on his ship, and he initially refuses, but eventually he obviously accepts. So it's like it's obviously meant to set up this kind of slightly tragic story because obviously he's narrating this from a point in the future, and he's obviously narrating obviously the past. It's obviously trying to show how he kind of fell into this bad situation that he didn't obviously ask for and didn't kind of didn't maneuver or manufacture himself, which is obviously a staple of the film noir genre. Obviously, like your kind of protagonist is
wrong man.
Yeah, exactly. Your protagonist is the wrong man at the wrong time. He's put in a situation that he has no control over, and he's trying to get away off. So yeah, from that point of view, I thought the setup is very effective. I think Elsa Bannister is from the batch is a really interesting character. She talks about how she spent time in obviously Shanghai, the lady from Shanghai. She spent time in Russia. She's quite world travelled, and yeah, she has kind of already, you can kind of tell that she has things about her that obviously Michael O'Hara is drawn to, and yeah, I think it's a very interesting kind of early setup in the first act.
Yeah, I like the beginning as well. Just save for the narration, it really does start off, and thankfully there's not an awful lot of narration in the film, but there is a lot in the beginning. Essentially what happens is he saves her from a bunch of muggers, and then her rich husband employs him as a result of it on this yacht, which in real life was owned by Errol Flynn, which is just so funny to me. Making it a personal mission to ensure that we cover at least 2 Errol Flynn movies next year. That's a personal goal. Rita Hayworth is fantastic in this film. Her character is, as I said at the beginning, she's a lot of edges. She's far more involved in the plot than maybe meets the eye. It's a film with a lot of twists, I feel. And the big one at the end is very much central around her character. So I feel like upon a rewatch, it's a great performance, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, is like, do you find that she kind of sowed the seeds for future kind of manipulation in there? She very much was like just a damsel in distress
Yeah.
with a terrible husband who she didn't like for the majority of the beginning of the film, and there was very little sort of foreshadowing or anything. Not that I'm asking to be spoon fed or anything, but
Yeah.
the twist towards the end seemingly comes from nowhere, in my opinion.
I think that because it's film noir, the audience already has kind of a baked in
Yeah.
distrust of kind of the female lead, as it were.
Yes.
I do kind
Would
of
you
agree.
believe that Elsa Bannister is a femme fatale?
Yeah, I do kind of agree with what you're saying, but I also think that it does work. Like we also obviously she's in Gilda as well, and it's fantastic in Gilda, and that's obviously like she's a femme fatale, but she's not really a femme fatale. So
that one it's almost the opposite kind of switch up.
Exactly. Like you think she's a femme fatale, but she's actually not. That's kind of the twist there. Whereas in this, I think the fact that she's clearly in an unhappy relationship and probably, let's be honest, quite abusive relationship, you can tell that she is very drawn to Michael O'Hara, and she thinks that this is like, again, her knight in shining armor, so to speak. Obviously, like she's probably just kind of latching on to the first sign of redemption, or the first sign of someone who can kind of take her out of the situation. And so I don't think that her actions, like, we might as well get into the spoilers there. She obviously sets up the events pretty much. Like she kills what's the guy's name?
Grisby?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, George Grisby.
Grisby, yeah. She kills Grisby, and she obviously she's trying to frame Michael for thinking that he's going to get off. Isn't that what happens?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a...
Yeah, it's a bit unclear.
Works.
Yeah, it does work.
It works, but it is a bit of a convoluted twist.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try my best to explain it. Yeah. I'm just going to get it out of the way now so that we can then address it. So, Grisby says to Michael O'Hara, Orson Welles, he finds out that Michael has killed someone before.
Yeah.
So then he asks him,
as part of the Franco, he kind of was, during the Franco war.
He killed a Franco spy.
Yeah.
He asks, would you kill again? You know, perchance, for $5,000 maybe. And it's very much alluded to that they're talking about Arthur Bannister. Like, it's very much kind of alluded to that he's going to ask him to knock off Bannister because him and Bannister own the company together. Yeah. And also it would be in his own interest because, you know, he'd be kind of freeing up Rita Hayworth. Lo and behold, though, that is not what Grisby asks him to do. Grisby asks him to kill him for $5,000. He wants to fake his death, which I love that there's like scenes in between him saying that he wants him to kill him and then him explaining that he wants him to fake his death, because there's this whole like
what are you saying
period of the film where Michael's just like, what is happening? And that's fantastic. That's a really great part of the film. Grisby wants to fake his death, and he's afraid of the atomic bomb, would you believe? That's one of the reasons. He also wants to get out of his marriage, and Michael writes a confession to say that he killed Grisby because if the body goes missing and the body's never found, if Michael confesses to it, according to California law, he actually won't go to prison for it if there's no body, because they can't prove that he actually killed him. But if he admits to murdering him, then according to law somewhere else, it would free up his will or something, so he'd still get the money from it, something like that. Anyway, but that's not how things go. Grisby kills in a bit of after a spat with Sidney Broom, who is a a detective
Yeah,
kind
undercover
of
detective.
on. Yeah, he's an undercover detective employed by Bannister. Um, he then says nothing to Michael and tries to go along with the plan anyway. But whenever Michael then goes to ring Elsa after, pretending to kill him, it's not Elsa on the phone. It's the not dead yet Broom, because somehow Broom survives these gunshots and reaches the phone to tell him, oh, you've been set up. They're setting you up. You need to go to this place now, because you need to go to the police now because they've set you up. They're going to frame you for the murder, but he won't say whose murder. And then he dies. So then Michael goes to go to the police, expecting Arthur Bannister to be dead. It's not Arthur Bannister who's dead. Grisby has actually genuinely been killed. And he has this fake confession on him that they take out of his pocket. And Michael's been stuck with the murder of Grisby, which would leave all the money in the company to Bannister. But Bannister doesn't himself admit to anything yet. We have no idea if he killed him, if someone else killed him. Lo and behold, yes, as I said, this is somewhat complicated twist. Elsa actually killed Grisby. And yeah, Lady from Shanghai.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I also just want to bring up the courtroom scenes because obviously you have the whole.
Yeah.
So basically, Bannister says that he wants to represent Michael because he's never lost a case, so he's his best chance of avoiding, the electric chair or whatever, the death penalty. But then it's pretty comedic then where Bannister is cross-examining himself. I thought that was such a funny scene. That's a great scene where Bannister, because whatever's going on in the trial, Bannister gets the opportunity as his defense attorney to question himself as a witness. So yeah, I mean, he basically has like the whole jury in the palm of his hands. That's a very funny sequence. So yeah,
it's great.
That's great.
But lo and behold, Bannister, who's never lost a case in his life, loses the case. Because and he even says to Michael, this is after it's come out that Michael and Elsa have been caught kissing at the aquarium. Bannister says to him, I know one thing that you don't. I have an edge, in reference to that random friend of Michael's very, very great monologue about having an edge. And he says, I know you're going to the electric chair. So then Michael scoffs a load of pills in front of him, and everyone breaks out into an absolute freaker. They try and take him out. They don't want him to die. Lo and behold, he faked it, and he busts out, and he escapes. And Elsa goes to meet him because we think Elsa's there to save him, but no, she actually killed Grisby. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting twist. Like I said, I think it, obviously from the point of view of like a desperate woman, like I don't think she's necessarily meant to be this mustache. I know she doesn't have a mustache twirling villain where she has this master plan the whole time. I think it's very much like a crime of circumstance and a crime of opportunity. As a way, obviously, to get her out of this situation. But yeah, pretty interesting twist. Like you say, it does. It kind of wavers, but it does just about hold together as a narrative kind of choice. And then obviously we get this whole sequence where the police are chasing him through this like play and stuff, and then he finally figures out that she is obviously the one who was responsible. And then the absolutely amazing funhouse sequence, Hall of Mirrors sequence, where it's just amazing. So yeah, there's like this whole confrontation and the way it's shot. I mean, oh my days, it's like I couldn't believe
having a shootout in one of them House of Mirrors is just such a genius idea because no one in the room knows where anyone is, and they're just like, kind of shooting at random.
Yeah, just randomly. Like, literally, you're shooting at like potentially 7 or 8 different targets. Any one of them could be the real target. And then obviously George Bannister comes in and he and Elsa have this shootout. But yeah, it's so amazing. And then obviously Michael walks away scot-free after they shoot each other and kill each other. But yeah, just an iconic ending. Like I think it's by far brings what is a pretty fun and camp noir, but like probably fairly middling tier, if I'm being honest. Definitely elevates it to like the next level of being like, alright, yeah, you should check this out if you get a chance, just for that sequence alone. It's amazing.
Yeah, sorry, for context as well, the reason why Elsa killed Grisby is because he went off plan
Yeah,
and killed um,
Broom.
Broom,
Yeah,
Sydney Broom. That wasn't part of the plan, so she was like, "Oh, he's a liability. I need to get rid of him so that I don't have any
yeah,
ties to that." Um, but she also always intended on actually killing her husband
yeah.
Bannister. Um, but yeah, it's Orson Welles. It's not going to be the most straightforward
No,
ending. They're not. They're never going to be the most straightforward characters. It's never going to be the most straightforward way of shooting something. That being said, very very much love this film, minus the accent, and that's the last time I'll reference the accent. But it is painful. As an Irish person, it's really hard to watch. But yeah, I very, very much love this film. It did come down a half a star, because that's such a massive deal, obviously. On my rewatch, it's now sitting pretty at 4 stars. A fantastic film, but yeah, I won't talk about it. Yeah, love the ending. It's shot unbelievably. It's edited unbelievably. The visuals are crazy. There's a bit where he calls himself the Fall Guy as he like falls down
yeah.
this massive slide. So class, so great. Go on, Orson. Yeah. Also very funny that the head of Columbia at the time, Harry Cohn. Harry Cohn said that because of this film, he would never ever hire a actor director again, because that if you hire an actor director, you cannot fire one of them.
That's
Um,
true. Yeah.
so yeah, pretty funny, but unbelievable. Very very good. Again, I just love the character of Grisby. He's so great. He's such a great, memorable,
Target practice.
just a psycho, absolute psycho. But it's also because he's such a psycho when he says like, "I want you to, I'm gonna give you $5,000 to murder me." It's like you
It's
actually
very camp.
think that actually is what he wants,
Yeah.
because he's just so unhinged. And then he explains he's actually a bit more intelligent than he lets on, shall we say? But yeah, wild, 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 wild. Uh, Wells's performance is like charming, but his accent's awful. There, I said it one more time. Rita Hayworth is very good in this film, and that's kind of all I really have to say about The Lady from Shanghai. It's just it's an Orson Welles film. It's. I don't want to say that the production is more interesting than the film, but like it's an Orson Welles film. You'll spend the majority of the time talking about how everything was a disaster.
Yeah.
One other thing, which is just an amazing story that I read prior to this. So it was a Columbia executive called Jack Fear, spelled Fior or Feior. Wells wanted the entire set repainted on the Saturday, for when they go back to work on the Monday for shooting. And Fear said absolutely not, because working weekends they'd get double pay. So Orson Welles and his mates broke in and painted the set themselves, and then they painted a banner that said, "The only thing to fear is fear itself," but the second one being his surname. And then the union complained massively because they were taking work away from the union workers.
Yeah.
So then they set up a picket fence outside the studio and complained and complained and complained until Jack Fear had to pay them triple the money that he would have had to pay them for actually doing the Saturday. And he then got them to paint a banner that said, "All's well that ends wells." So it was just another window into the interesting relationship between Orson Welles and the higher ups.
Yeah, for sure. It's very volatile at the best of times.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, I would agree that it went down by half a star. I'm sure he's absolutely devastated to hear that wherever he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went from
Sure,
four
means a lot to him.
from 4 to a 3.5. You really enjoyed it. Very very good noir. Very camp, very fun. But like I said, I definitely did notice the kind of unevenness and it was a bit more bumpy than I remember on the first watch. You can kind of notice how it's not exactly like doesn't all fit together in a nice little puzzle. There are
Mm-hmm.
moments where it is a bit more bumpy and a bit uneven. But no, I definitely would recommend it. I think some of the locations are really really beautiful to look at, and obviously the funhouse sequence, funhouse mirror sequence, sorry, is just absolutely astonishing. Just looks as good as anything you're going to see these days, let alone back then. So,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. So yeah, very much recommend it.
Great. And now I reckon it is time that we talk about some of the films that we have watched recently. So I think I've seen a few. I have. I've seen a handful of films since we last recorded. I saw for the first time ever 28 Days Later. Really, really great zombie movie. I was kind of in the mood for it after in the build up to me doing a short video, which has since long come out on the podcast. A comparison between Night of the Living Dead 68 and 1990. I wanted to watch a different zombie movie first, just to kind of, palate cleanser. And yeah, unbelievable. So great. Would you believe that I know I said this in my letterbox review, but would you believe that the real monster all along was man and not the zombies? Um, I then watched Frank Capra's Lost Horizon, which is such an interesting scenario for me, where the film is already over 2 hours long, and I was really into it. And then I felt that the ending was rushed. I genuinely think that there was enough source material in this film that Frank Capra could have made a 3 hour epic out of it, and it would have probably been the best version of the film. It is a really great film, starring Ronald Coleman and Jane Wyatt, and it's one of them films where there's, I think, 6 minutes of footage is missing, but they found the entire audio track in some random ass cinema, normally in South America. I feel like it's always
Yeah,
South
it
America that
usually
these
is.
things get found, which is a shame because there's two characters played by Thomas Mitchell and Edward Everett Horton, and in the scenes that you see them on screen together, they're both very funny. But most of their big comedic skits are the things that are missing, which is a shame because like they're two actors who I'm vaguely familiar with. I've seen them in a couple of things, but never would have like pointed them out. But like this could have been my like, oh my god, they're class, and it also has Sam Jaff in it, who I'm starting to realize is a very underrated
Yeah,
actor.
I agree.
Yeah, we covered him obviously in the Asphalt Jungle, and similarly to in Gunga Din, he does not play a white man in this film. That being said, his performance is pretty great. It's about a place you may have heard of called Shangri La. It's basically like based on a book, and I think the book is also called Lost Horizon. And it's a place where people go to, and they can more or less live forever. And if you leave Shangri La, it's very Usheen of Tirnanog for the Irish out there. But then there's this whole thing that the main character's brother gets in his ear and is convinced that the whole thing is an absolute lie. Shangri La is a like there has to be something wrong about this place. It can't be as perfect as they make it out to be. And he desperately tries to convince the brother and the other people who were involved in this plane crash at the start of the film to leave Shangri La. And the results of that is just fascinating. But again, I feel like the ending is really rushed. I could have happily sat for an extra 20 minutes, 30 minutes and watched a much more fleshed out ending. Ronald Coleman is fantastic in the film. I then watched 1990's Night of the Living Dead. I said it in the short video. I definitely don't think it's as good as the original, but I certainly respect Tom Savini because he's clearly making it from a place of love. It's Tom Savini, so like a lot of the emphasis will be put on the physical, practical effects that basically try to modernize it. That being said, he does an entirely different ending, which is again, I respect it. It's not as good as the original ending, in my opinion. I don't think it's nearly as good, but it's still ballsy to do that. And of course, it stars Tony Todd. I love Tony Todd. Tony Todd's an amazing actor. Rest in peace. I then watched a little old film called Mulholland Drive for the first time. Just a really easy to understand film, got it first try. No, I didn't spend 4 hours after it watching video
In a
essays
rabbit
going
hole,
into
yeah.
the. Yeah. I so went down that rabbit hole and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then I watched Johnny O'Clock, which is a film noir I'd always heard about.
Johnny
Oh my
O'Clock.
god. Oh my god. It is the stupidest name. And the worst thing is it totally takes away from Dick Pell's performance because I just laughed the whole way through the film when it was meant to be deadly serious.
Is it not play for
Because this
laughs,
is
no?
no, it's
Oh,
dead.
yeah.
It's so
Right.
deadpan,
That's
which
mad.
yeah, yeah, it's really bad. Lee J. Cobb is in it, and he's fantastic, but he's not in it nearly enough. He's the detective on the case, but just when the woman who is opposite Dick Pell, who I wasn't familiar with, Evelyn Keyes. Oh, I know that name. Yeah, she was in Gone with the Wind. Um, Evelyn Keyes. Uh, she just God love her. I don't know about back then, but I was creasing every time she spoke because she'd be like, "I love you, Johnny O'Clock," and it's just hilarious. It's meant to be sympathetic, and it was just so stupid, so stupid. And then last but certainly not least, I watched the 2013 remake from Fede Alvarez of Evil Dead. Oh my god, I was so I'm not gonna say pleasantly surprised because I know people like it, but honest to God, one of the greatest remakes of all time. Fantastic. It's not as good as Evil Dead 2, but Evil Dead 2 is like arguably a perfect movie. I literally cannot find a singular fault in the movie Evil Dead 2. It is like one of the most five star films I've ever seen. It's like so tight. And the big thing is it's obviously got Bruce Campbell, who is just like a charisma machine. Like he is just
Yeah.
oozing charisma. He's so cool. He's so funny. His big silly unibrow and his chainsaw hand, like it's just perfect. And that's the only. I'm not even gonna call it a gripe, but my only thing, if you were to compare the remake to the originals, is Shiloh Fernandez. Uh, his performance isn't amazing. That being said, Jane Levy, I think it's pronounced, is also in this. She is unbelievable, and I can't believe she's not like. I can't believe she's not up there with like Samara Weaving and Anya Taylor Joy and Jenna Ortega as like those kind of like prominent horror final girls of like the current era of horror. Because Jane Levy is unbelievable in this film. She's so good. Just like wall to wall action, doesn't hold up. Also, kind of makes a lot of the things in the film more realistic and more believable as to why characters would do that. The original Evil Dead, I enjoy. I think it's good, but it's definitely got its flaws, and especially like narratively, it kind of has its pitfalls. Whereas this one, it's like the reasoning behind everything, the reason that they don't leave the cabin is like so understandable, so legitimate. Yeah, really, really great. Fede Alvarez, definitely. If he's not on people's radars already, Fede Alvarez is like a fantastic director. He did Alien Romulus, which came out this year, which is fantastic. He did the Evil Dead remake, and I haven't seen it yet, but I know he directed Don't Breathe, which is a horror film that I know a lot of people really like, and I definitely will get around to as well. But yeah, shout out Fede Alvarez because that guy is one of the most underrated directors in horror at the minute.
Yeah, so for me, I watched Night Moves, which is a film by Arthur Penn starring Gene Hackman. Obviously, they did Bonnie and Clyde, which you reviewed, but this is funny. It's funny enough because this came out the same year as The Conversation, and it also features obviously Gene Hackman as a guy called Harry who's investigating something. So it's pretty interesting how it works. Very does have the kind of 70s kind of sleaziness to it. I think definitely like
Mm-hmm.
a very very sleazy case. He's like a private detective that he's trying to work out. He goes to, like the Florida, I think it's the Florida Keys, and he's yeah, it's just all very slimy and dirty and sleazy, and yeah, it's kind of like a typical 70s Gene Hackman movie, but it's really good. I really enjoyed it. What else? Sorry, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere is obviously it's not really a biopic. It's more of like a dramatization of a certain point in his life, Bruce Springsteen. But I am a big Springsteen fan, so I was looking forward to it. I know this hasn't really gotten the best reviews. It's kind of gotten fairly mixed reviews and hasn't done that well at the box office. I did enjoy it. I will say that I think that Jeremy Allen White is good, but he doesn't sound or look or act anything like Bruce Springsteen. I have to say, it's more like Carmy from The Bear, but instead of having a kitchen apron over him, he just has a guitar. Like he's basically playing Carmy just with a guitar set in the 80s. It's a good performance, but again, if you've seen The Bear, he's basically just playing Carmy. But it's a good performance. Stephen Graham is an absolute legend. I know I've mentioned it before, but the guy just pulls on the heartstrings. He's such an amazing actor. I love that guy. Yeah, I did enjoy it. Like I said, I don't know why it's gotten so many kind of lukewarm reviews. Fair enough, I suppose. The Shining is an amazing movie. Obviously, rewatched it. It's actually my first rewatch. I only seen it once before. Crazy enough. Definitely appreciate it more on the second watch, though. I definitely understood it more and what Kubrick is going for and stuff. Obviously, great movie. Couple of movies that we're going to be covering in the podcast, I won't mention. Ballad of a Small Player is the latest movie from Edward Berger, starring Colin Farrell. I think Colin Farrell's performance is it's a very committed performance. Obviously, he's had like addiction issues himself, not with gambling, which is what his character has the issue with, but obviously like other substance abuse issues. So you can tell how committed he is to try and get this thing right and try and show how kind of addiction is obviously something like debilitates your whole life, your whole lifestyle and stuff. The movie itself, I'll be honest, didn't really work too much for me. It's got some really amazing cinematography, like it's set in Macau and other parts of Asia. So it looks really beautiful, but yeah, it doesn't really fully work for me as a narrative. The Big Clock, so I mentioned I think a couple of weeks ago, John Farrow, his movie Alias Nick Beale, which is an amazing noir starring Ray Milland as this like, I won't even say what he is, but it's just a brilliant like villainous performance from him. This is actually set a year before, made a year beforehand, also starring Ray Milland. And would you believe it, Charles Lawton is the villain in this one. Really, really good movie. Yeah, there you go. If that's in Soldier, I don't know what will. So basically it's about someone being set up for murder, but he doesn't know who's setting up for murder. But the person setting him up for murder isn't actually setting him up for murder. He's setting someone else up that he thinks is responsible, or that he's trying to set someone else up for murder that he doesn't actually know. So it's like everyone's got something that they're trying to hide, but also something they're trying to find out in this movie. It's a really great premise. And it's like I said, it's a really good investigative kind of mystery murder / noir. It's a kind of a fun little hodgepodge of different genres, but yeah, it's really interesting, fun movie. Begonia is the latest movie from Yorgos Lanthimos. Love that guy, and his collab with Emma Stone. Obviously, I think they made The Favourite. They've made, what else? Poor Things, yeah, and Kinds of Kindness. Yeah, they're all really great, and this is yet another kind of success. Obviously, she plays this like CEO who's kidnapped by Jesse Plemons, and Jesse Plemons' cousin, played by Aidan Delvin, who's actually a fantastic actor who I'd never seen before. I think he's a really interesting find. But so Jesse Plemons is like this conspiracy theorist who's convinced that this woman is a CEO, or this person is a CEO, or sorry, CEO. This person is an alien sent from outer space to kind of ruin humanity. So it's really dark and twisted and stuff. But I think Jesse Plemons, he's such a good actor because he has this way of playing these real oddball creeps, but then also like weirdly you still kind of root for them. It's so weird. Like he's such an amazing. I don't know. Other than in Warfare, where he's terrifying in that movie. He has one scene and he's the best scene in the movie by a mile.
He is by far the best part of that movie.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, not Warfare. What am I saying? What's it called? Civil War.
Yeah,
Civil War.
Clock that. Yeah.
Yeah, Civil War. Civil War. Yeah, sorry, but he's amazing in that movie. In a very definitely not trying to gain your sympathy in that movie at all. But he does have this kind of way of straddling that line perfectly. But yeah, it's a really, really fun twists and turns in this movie. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you're a Lanthimos fan, and if you're a fan of Stone and Lanthimos' collaboration so far. What else? The Last of Sheila. This is actually very fun because this is written by Stephen Sondheim and Anthony Perkins. And it's a murder, it's a murder mystery. So obviously I think at the time they were actually together, according to reports. So they were a couple at the time, and yeah, they decided to write this murder mystery of these friends who were kind of in and around the entertainment industry. So there's like a director played by James Mason. Actually, there's other kind of someone else, an actor, someone else is a talent agent, someone else is like an aspiring producer and stuff. Ian McShane, actually, he's that character. But basically, someone's wife was murdered about a year previously, and then about a year later he gathers them all together under the guise of this so-called game where they're going to play a bunch of fun murder mystery games over a bunch of days, but really he's going to out the killer at the end of this week, and he's figured out who actually killed his wife in this hit and run. It's such a great premise, so many amazing twists and turns, which I'm obviously not going to spoil. But it's also got some great locations. It's set on a yacht, and then it's set in other parts of like kind of sunny European kind of climates. And sorry, if you've seen Glass Onion, pretty much throughout Glass Onion is very clearly heavily inspired by this movie, but especially like the setup. The setup is like everyone's getting this invitation, and then they're kind of obviously looking forward to going to this like person's this kind of eccentric person's private island where they don't actually know what's in store. So very much, if you like Glass Onion, which I actually think I mentioned a few weeks ago, didn't really work as much for me on the second watch, but this is like the improved version of what Glass Onion should be. And obviously Glass Onion, like I said, was heavily inspired, I think, by this really, really fun murder mystery. If you're into that kind of thing, really recommend it. And last but not least, To Be or Not to Be is an amazing screwball comedy set in the Second World War from Ernst Lubitsch, who's obviously again heavily inspired the work of Billy Wilder. So yeah, look, everyone knows how much of a Wilder fan I am, but Ernst Lubitsch's work is like kind of a bit of a blind spot for me, considering how much obviously he has influenced Wilder's work. And yeah, this is amazing. It's got Carl Lombard as like this. Basically, the premise is there's a bunch of actors. It's set in wartime Poland, obviously, but there's a bunch of kind of theatre actors who have to they have to try and pretend. How do I put this? Basically, they're trying to save this soldier from the Polish kind of regiment and stuff. But the way they do this is they have to kind of pretend to be part of the Nazi part. I don't even know how to describe it. It's such a weird premise, but it does work. So it's set around this, like one of the guys plays Hamlet, and obviously To Be or Not to Be, that's where the title comes from. But yeah, it's kind of a critique about obviously a massive critique about the Nazi party, about Hitler, and really, really sticks the knife in hundreds of times on. Like, it's set in it's released in 1942, so it's very much heavily critical, obviously, of the Nazi party and of Hitler and stuff. But it's also heavily critical. It takes the piss out of like actors' kind of propensity to make everything about themselves, and to try and like gain better roles themselves, and like ad lib little extra lines for themselves. So it's very, very, very funny kind of a screwball comedy, but it does also kind of have a very dramatic kind of. There's 2 or 3 scenes in there that are very kind of dramatic as well, so it does kind of straddle that line very well. And very much recommend it. I need to check out more of Ernst Lubitsch's work, because the few films I've seen of his I have loved, and yeah, this is no different. I absolutely adore this. It's right up my street. I do love a screwball comedy, so yeah, very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely a genre we need to do more of next year. 100%. Maybe we'll do an arc about it. Who knows?
Maybe.
But yeah, that was the episode of the Golden Hour Film Podcast where we covered The Lady from Shanghai. Friday is our final episode of Noirvember. We will have completed all 8 episodes that came out this month. There's also been obviously a litany of top 12s. We have I've also been reviewing films noir every day on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, Noirvember is almost coming to a close. Everyone's favorite time of the year on the podcast. But don't worry, because December we've also got a pretty stacked lineup, I feel. It's safe to say.
Yep.
And in the meantime, I have been Harry Bailey.
I have been Shane Mulvaney.
And we'll see you all Friday for the final episode of Noirvember. Goodbye.